Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and ladies and gentlemen, as you all have probably heard, there's been a pretty serious talk about VPN age restrictions actually happening this summer. Now, as far as we've seen, it's kind of in the United Kingdom. It might even touch other parts of the world, because it seems like a lot of these governments that are putting age restriction on all of our social media have realized it's just really easy to bypass. Now, look, I can make a video talking about how bad this is and get a VPN service and yada yada yada, but if we're making it annoying to get in this situation, I'm going to show you guys how to build your own VPN. Now, I've shown you this in the past, but I'm actually going to rip the band-aid and get right into this, okay? Real Indian tutorial style YouTube, okay? Just skip all the fluff, let's get into it. It's effectively you're connecting into a network outside of your home system, and you're basically routing to that, and you connect to a VPN and you can basically access internal networks, or in this case, you can access the rest of the internet, right? Think of it as, imagine if you're living in the United Kingdom, right? Obviously, it sucks. You gotta give your ID for everything. But what if you had a computer sitting in a part of the world that didn't necessarily have any age restriction whatsoever? Imagine if your computer was sitting somewhere in the US. Now, you could buy a computer and place it there with a whole internet connection, but that's a fucking headache. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna buy something known as a VPS. Now, what is a VPS, ladies and gentlemen? A VPS is a virtual private server, and basically it allows us to purchase a little computer in another part of the world for maybe a few bucks a month. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can really pick which provider you want. Some of them give you cheap options, like here's one for $2.80 a month, and there are some options that go more and more expensive. So because I actually have an account with a service called Hostinger, I'm actually just going to use this as an example. Now, again, you can make your account over here, you can sign up, yada, 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 whatever. As far as I have experience, I haven't been asked for a driver's license or anything, but a lot of these services, some of them will ask you for KYC, so if your account gets flagged, don't be surprised if you have to give up your information here or there. You could probably go to some shadier VPS services that might be cheaper and operate in parts of the world where they really don't do any checking. But I'm not here to give you any wild ideas. This is not a video where you're meant to stay safe or private on the internet. In fact, this is not the most private option. This is not a way for you to access any, Netflix service, bypass it, because this is not a perfect solution. This is literally a video to teach you how to set up a virtual private network, something of your own, in a part of the world that isn't currently restricted by any age verification crap at this moment. So that's pretty much what this video is for. Now, when you make a Hostinger account, you'll get sent to the H panel, and then over here you can click the little search option, and you can probably just search for something like WireGuard or OpenVPN. Now, you could just click any of these options, and you could just deploy it this easily. But honestly, that doesn't make for a fun video. What if you don't have something this easy on the shady service you went to, right? What if they just throw you a VPS and call it a day? Well, in this, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to walk you through exactly how this stuff works, okay? So at this site, or whatever site you're on, basically you want to purchase a VPS. Now, every single site will have a different idea or a different user interface, but generally speaking, they'll ask you, where the fuck do you want to set your VPS? So you can see right over here, there's plenty of options like France, the United Kingdom. Obviously, we're trying to get away from here, so these two options are kind of bust. There's Lithuania, there's Germany, there's the United States, there's Brazil, India, Indonesia, so on and so forth. Now, to make it super easy, we're going to pick, Boston 2. So again, that is the closest one to me. Apparently, it's got the best carbon footprint, I guess. So we'll go next, and over here you can pick which operating system you want installed. Now, you can go all the way from Alma, Debian, Arch, whatever. We're going to pick Ubuntu because it's super easy. Pick 24.04 LTS, hit select, and here you can generate root passwords and especially SSH keys if you want. Just for simplicity's sake, and because I'm not really going to be using this outside this video just to showcase, I'm going to make a root password really quickly, so give me a second. And we're going to just hit next there. And it'll ask you for additional passwords too, so you can add like a malware scanner if you want, which, sure, it's free, why the fuck not? You can add daily backups, which really wouldn't matter for your VPN anyways. and of course a Docker manager, but we don't really need to do this. We'll just hit next. And here's where the pricing comes in, okay? So for instance, if you're buying this, you have different options, right? So for $6 a month, you can get 1 core, 4 gigs of RAM, 50 gigs of storage, and 4 terabytes of bandwidth. And that's probably enough space for you. Simply speaking, that's probably all you need. Simply because I doubt many of you people are going to be browsing per month more than 4 terabytes, right? So you could probably just go here. Now you can see right over here on the cheapest option, this is where they kind of fucking get you. So basically, if you give them the $12 now, you'll be charged $83 or whatever. And of course, ultimately the plan does renew at the higher rate. You're getting kind of a cheaper rate right over here. So just because I'm in the argument, I'm just gonna get the 1 month option. And I'm just gonna pay for it like the $10 right now to show you. But depending on what you are, you can find cheaper virtual private servers. You can find, cheaper options. But again, you do have to pay to get this working. I remember the last time I showed you this, I picked like a free Google option, but I don't know if that's necessarily available anymore. And I believe services like that generally are blocked a lot faster because since they're free, lots of scammers use them, and ultimately it just ruins the whole party for everybody. So I'm gonna pay like 10 bucks over here, and we're basically just gonna get the cheapest option just to show you guys the stuff and kind of move on from here. So let it process the payment, and I'll get back to you. Alrighty, so once you're paid, you'll see it's setting up my VPS. It'll take about 3 minutes. You can leave. So basically what it's doing is just setting up your little like Linux environment. It's basically setting up your little virtual server off the internet. Now again, you can use this for a lot of other things that aren't necessarily VPN related. And again, you can always upgrade the, performance or the actual like server you get. So maybe if you do want to do things, maybe if you do want to take real advantage of this, you can. But for now, for VPN purposes, the cheapest option that we got is probably the finest option, right? So again, just shop around, see what deal works for you and your budget. You don't have to go and pay an arm and a leg for any service out there. As long as you get access to a VPS that you can SSH into, which basically is all of them, you're effectively fine. And the reason I'm going through the setup procedure for this video is because ultimately the setup that I show you can be replicated on basically any other service, right? So just keep that in mind. So once everything is done, ladies and gentlemen, you now have access to SSH into your system, or just manage it directly from the browser. Now, SSHing is not really that difficult. As long as you get this IP address or whatever it gives you, all you can do is open up a terminal on your home system. So again, really doesn't matter what you have. If you have Windows or if you have Mac, generally speaking, they all come with SSH built into their terminal tool. So what I'm going to do right over here is just to make it super duper easy for you, I'm just going to change my terminal so it looks more legible. So again, I can SSH in, and of course the first time it'll ask you, hey, this key is not known, so give it yes, and of course enter the exact root password that you have. So again, I entered it wrong, and generally there's also ways to lock this up by creating SSH keys so you can actually further secure the system. So once you're SSH'd in, you should see this right over here, welcome to Ubuntu, and all this extra stuff. So again, this is how you SSH from your terminal. Now, if you are somebody that wants to use the SSH tool inside Hostinger, then that's something that you can do as well. So over here inside their tool, all you can do is just click the terminal button and you'll be sent to a web page that just gives you terminal access anyways. So again, it opens up, boom, you're right here. So right over here, what do you do first? Well, you want to get Docker, right? So ultimately what you're going to do here is you're going to install it into the system. So you can see right over here, Docker isn't found by default, which is totally fine. You can do curl-s, capital S, L, and then of course enter the Docker actual script over here. So get docker.com and the /sh, hit enter. And of course, it'll execute the install script for you. So you're installing Docker, and once this is ready to go, you can get the container installed, which in this case is going to be something called WG Easy, which is WireGuard Easy, simply because that is the easiest way to get this stuff installed and going. There's more complicated, better solutions, but generally speaking, I'm assuming that whoever's watching this doesn't really know what's like. I'm assuming that, people have never touched a terminal. So I'm kind of making this video for, the average person to come into and do this simply by following a video guide. So now that the system is here, I actually did reboot it. You really don't have to. Now, if you actually go into the system and hit Docker PS, you can see that basically it works, but there's nothing actually loaded, which makes sense. So just clearing this again, if you hit LS, you can actually see that nothing sort of exists here. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in make directory, right? Make dir, and then of course we're going to make a directory known as WG-easy in this case, right? And once we make that directory, you can see that again, now it's made. So we're just going to change directory into it. So CD WG-easy. So now that we're actually in it, here's where our workspace sort of begins. So we're going to make a Docker compose file. So here we're going to use something called Nano, which is basically the word editing tool, the text editing tool in here. We're going to type in docker compose.yaml. And you might be like, well, Muda, why don't you use Vim? If you're asking me that, you probably don't fucking need this video, so don't be a smartass, all right? It's a free instructional video, goddamn. So once you get access to this, I actually wrote a Docker Compose script that we can use in this situation, and you can kind of just copy what I have over here, but basically to walk you through what's happening, WG-easy is going to pull a image, it's going to name this image, and importantly, what we're doing over here, and I kind of had a local LLM sort of like, read this and kind of fix up the script or, make sure it's syntactically correct. You can see that over here, basically what we're doing is we're kind of using the admin port, but we're kind of locking it to local, meaning that we don't actually want to expose the administration panel to the public, right? So nobody can just jump into your thing and maybe fuck around with it. We want to kind of lock this down the best way that we can, right? So ultimately, following this script, and you can just kind of pause the video, write this down, and copy it in or type it in as you need to. Once you're done, hit Control X, and you can basically save this in your system. So you can save it as the Docker Compose file. And now all you have to do is basically bring it up. So do Docker Compose up -D. So the moment you do this, you'll see that it's pulling all the files, right? So it's pulling WG-easy, and now it's actually started it. So if you do Docker PS, it's apparently fucking running at localhost, all there. So everything seems to be working. So now to access this, and again, this is me doing it underneath Linux, I'm going to open up a terminal on my own system. We're just going to leave, if you have this SSH running, you can just kind of minimize and keep that terminal. So open up a fresh one, and here you can do SSH capital L, and of course you can type in, again, the actual port. So in this case, we bounded it to 51821 localhost 51821. And of course, at this point, we're also going to be doing root add, of course, the IP address that we actually had set. So your IP address you can find in the overview page for, again, your host and your account. So again, you can copy that one specifically and just paste that into this terminal. And the moment you do that, you can hit enter. And of course, you do have to provide the password, obviously, or the SSH key if you've hardened it that way. And as you're browsing this terminal open, you can open up a fresh little page. You can open up like a fresh web browser page. You can copy in localhost 51821, hit enter, and you'll be sent to WireGuard, right? So here it is. We're connected to the WireGuard setup that we have. So anytime you want to add like new, things to this, anytime you want to add new like users, you can basically enter this command in and open up sort of a panel to WireGuard. So here we're going to go through the setup together. We're going to hit continue. We're going to give ourselves a username. So I'm going to give myself my name. I'm going to give it a password that I know. And of course we can make that, oh wait, is it the same password? Is it? Oh, it must at least be 12 characters, okay. Well, maybe I'll just make it as root. Not the best thing to be reusing passwords, but again, this is a video that just shows you the process. You can handle the security as you intend. So it's going to ask, do you have an existing setup? Obviously we don't, so we're going to hit no. Please enter the host and port information. This will be used for the client configuration when setting up WireGuard on their devices. Which, by the way, since we're kind of over here, go back to the host in your panel and definitely like add a firewall command, since I think this one specifically needs like a firewall command. So again, enter in like allow like 51820/UDP. So again, we want to add this command in because ultimately we don't want to open any port to the public, right? We don't really want to open certain ports. And effectively, the tunnel that we made literally like a few minutes ago, that's how we want to reach things, right? So here you can see that for the host, you can click the big red suggest button, and the suggestion, you can probably put in the standard IP address to the actual, like, you know, that's public facing. You could probably also use the host name, but we're going to stick with the IP address. And again, we'll keep it at port 51820 as everything should just default to that. We'll just stick with the defaults, okay? So at this point, once it says setup is successful, we're going to sign in. And of course, ultimately, the user account that we just built, we're going to sign in using that. So here we go. We're signed in. You can see that I'm the admin of the area. We can light mode that shit up, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for flashbanging you. But here we can add new clients. So in the new client, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in main PC. So this is just going to be my main computer. And of course, it's going to want like an expiration date. So I guess just for the sake of it, since I'm not going to be using this too long, I'm just going to pick a date close by, create the client. And of course, you can see right over here, it's given me the main PC. Now, it's up to you to connect your client here. Now, you can make as many clients as you want. You can make things for your cell phone, your tablet, your other computer, but I'm just going to keep it for this one computer right here. Now, look at that. My phone actually did connect to the IP address that is linked to this VPN. So anyways, that's a fun little way to go down. It literally was that easy. Just scan like a QR code and you're pretty much gravy. But how do we connect this over to my computer, right? You can see that my actual phone actually had some activity. So I'm going to download the configuration file over here. So we're just going to download this. We're going to save this to my computer, and it's going to be the conf file right here. So inside my Linux networking settings, and for Mac it might be a little bit different, for Windows it might be different. You can actually look online for the client guides once you download these configuration files. But basically in the network settings, all I really have to do is hit the new connection. And of course over here inside Linux, you can basically look for where it says WireGuard. So again, you can find WireGuard over here, and you can actually connect through the configuration file. Actually, I think, however, the best way to do it is to go all the way down to import VPN connection. And then inside the download folder, you can hit the configuration, and boom, it actually is there, it connected. So now that everything is connected and ready to go, let's see if the VPN does in fact function. So it says I'm connected, but I'm actually gonna go do what's my IP, for instance. And inside the What's My IP page, you can actually see that it did in fact work. My IP address is connected to Boston, Virginia in the United States of America. And my ISP is Hostinger Operations. So it's not so much a private VPN. A lot of the big VPNs that you go to will find ways to mask themselves. So they'll look like, I don't know, weird, shady white van LLC or something like that, right? Or something of that nature. But generally, the idea over here, ladies and gentlemen, is how do you access the internet now? Well, you can go to youtube.com, and as far as YouTube is considered, I am just connecting to their service via, again, this VPN that I have. And you can see that literally I'm unable to access their VPN anymore. I can't even refresh the page because I am literally just connected through them. So if I disconnect the VPN, and still have access with the actual like SSH tool that I have. So let me just reconnect this once more. Wait, can I exit? Oh, did it actually like fucking straight up crash? Hold on. Connect me in. Okay, try relogging in. Okay, here it is. I'm actually back into the main system. So when I do fire up the VPN, I do kill my connection to the WireGuard terminal. But here, ladies and gentlemen, to an extent, I actually did show you guys how to set up your own personal virtual private network. So again, anytime you want to access it, right, you basically connect it with the same SSH command that I showed you for your specific server. And from here, you can connect in and basically make all the new accounts that you want. So WireGuard is pretty well supported as a VPN platform. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's an open source solution that you can kind of rely on for, again, your own VPN. So it really isn't that long of a setup, to be honest with you. Like, for the most part, this is kind of the route you want to take. And the reason I walked you through this process is because, listen, now you know how to do this amongst any VPS service, right? If you have an actual computer somewhere out in the world, you can set up a Docker container there and just do exactly what I showed you on this channel, right? So ultimately now, no matter what your skill level is, by following this video guide, you now know how to set up a VPN service. You now know how to set up your own personal VPN. So now if the tyrannical government around you wants to basically ban access to a lot of these, or not ban access, but require you to give up your personal information, you can now use virtual private services that may not ask you for your information and just set up your service through them. For now, however, you can get services from like Mulvad VPN and kind of be fine right there. But look, we're in a fucking weird world, okay? And look, I know that there's going to be some angry fucking parents like, you just taught kids how to make their own VPN and bypass the nanny state laws. And to that, I really don't give a fuck, to be honest with you. I think information is power. I think you should be free to make your choices on the internet. And you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to give you guys the best tools, tips, and tricks to fight back. So today, you'll learn something. Even if you fucking hate me, or even if you think I'm a scumbag, asshole, piece of shit, whatever the fuck, okay? Even if you're my biggest hater, at least you learned something today. And that is more valuable than anything else out there, okay? I wish I could end this Tai Lopez style with a fucking Lamborghini behind me and a whole book full of knowledge, but I think you're ending off with all the knowledge you kind of need for today. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to keep you here too long. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.